So it's week one of the Guinness Pro14, as it's now called, and we're going to be all bowled over by these South African teams, was generally the selling point of this thing. Was it a raging success this opening weekend? What's your
No, it was
it
was a real kind of a soft opening. If you kind of look at it, what with the football, the electric picnic, the hurling final, it didn't land a blow, to be honest, you know. They did cobble together all these fixtures real quickly, so they weren't thinking about kind of hitting it in round one. South African teams conceded, I think it was 90 points between them. They were both stuffed. That's not that much of a surprise with the Kings. With the Cheetahs could be a really good team if they weren't also playing Currie Cup at the moment.
Right.
The South African media are just calling it farcical because they supposedly sent their better team up north not to be hammered in the first weekend, and they came up against a load of Springboks playing for Ulster, you know. All the South Africans are realising where all their players have gone now, you know.
So how does it fit with the Currie Cup continues?
Currie Cup's going on.
And they've had to put another team into the Currie Cup.
So the Cheetahs have gone and got themselves a 55-man squad, pulling people from sevens, pulling people, lone guys, lads who are semi-pro. Like this is a good idea in theory. South African rugby coming up here, but it's going to be a lot of farcical moments. It's going to be a lot of hammerings in the next couple of months.
Wow.
This season it's not going to work out. Don't expect much from them. The Cheetahs as an entity, as a franchise, as a club, as a rugby region are good, and they will get it together, I'd imagine, but not if they're playing Currie Cup. Now, when the sevens comes back in, how many players do we see? Like, they've got some flying wingers on both teams. How many of them go back into the sevens system? There's a lot of stuff.
There's
here.
A bit of settling down to be done here.
We can picture this. We can picture this for the rest of the season and keep having a go at it. Martin Ianni, the CEO of Pro Rugby, just said, "Look, just give it a chance." And the implication was kind of, we might have to give it a year or two.
That's kind of like,
public won't give it a year or two.
Well, 2 years seems like a lot, I have to say. Now, a year you can probably sort of let them away with a bit and say, look, for the reasons that we're outlining, that you kind of get to. That's fine, right? Like, because we don't know how it's going to work. There's the huge distance factor here, and the other factor of all these other little competitions that we've got to try and figure out how that works. Like, you kind of understand that. I think 2 years seems like a long time.
Supposedly, the overnight flights, all that's covered for in the costs on top, not including the $500,000 that all the teams got. So your overnight flight, no jet lag, that does work in theory. What we're waiting to see here now is if the other South African franchises come following them up and South African rugby comes up. Because financially it makes sense for them
at the minute, doesn't it? Like,
and they've just run out of ideas getting stuffed by every time they go down to New Zealand on tour, and it's the big jet lag trips and all that, and it's just not working. This is their option. This is their way of going another way. So that's why that would be a seismic change for rugby.
Like getting out of the rugby championship and coming into the
No. I'm just talking about all their other Super Rugby teams.
So and then they remain in the rugby championship. Would it not make more sense to actually just wholesomely
let them into the Six Nations? No, it's not going to happen. Well, stranger things have happened. They've just dropped 2 South African teams into the Pro 12, so we'll see. But no, I don't think that. I think what the South African the people running the rugby union down there are on record of saying, we're going to be very interested to see. Now, in theory, we've done it, so now if it's workable, they're open to the idea of it all, of them coming up.
I wonder what that means. Like, does that mean right? Because that's very dependent on the points that you made about them actually sending proper teams. And
there's money there. There's money on the table. This is why it was out. They flipped it within a couple of weeks. This is why you don't hear. You heard a little bit of complaining about it. And like, there's loads. We come and spend the rest of the season picking through the problems with it, but there's money on the table for all the teams. So everyone went, "Oh, okay, we'll get involved."
And that's fine. Like,
Martin Ianni, his first job, his number one thing was to make them a competitive entity with English club rugby and French club rugby when he came into the job 2 years ago. The North American franchise thing, which I think can still happen with an East Coast team in a year or two, would have given them the international identity, and then there's obviously the US market. They're a mess over there at the moment. They can't get their club scenes together. They can't get their under international level thing. They're the same as most people. They've got the sevens problems. They've a load of problems to fix. So the South African thing is him achieving his first job as what he set out to do.
So a couple of things in that. So in terms of the competitiveness with the English and French leagues, again, like, what does that mean? Does that mean like winning European Cups, or is that the financial end of it? Or
financially, and they're still financially, they're light years away. But this is suddenly something that goes. They just have to think outside the box, because they were going to be forever swallowed whole by. There's always like, I'm going to go, and it's still happening. You go to France. If you're a Scottish player, you're going to end up going to England. If you're a top elite Scottish player, simply because you're not going to get dropped by Scotland, your leg go down, so you take the big money if you're a world-class player. Welsh lads, same thing. Ireland have it all ring-fenced, and we've a nice little thing going, so it's really beneficial for Ireland to make the Pro14 workable and really competitive. There's never going to be as much money on the table, but there's more money now. There's never going to be as much money as England and French leagues, but there's more money.
And the US thing is obviously still very much a viable thing. Like, does that not become an awful mess?
Well, it's East Coast, so it would have to be East Coast. Yeah. Like, and they know
it's
that.
Still monster trips, monster journeys. Like, even in terms of fans having access to go to games.
Yeah, I was over in New Jersey at the Ireland game this year to test. I'm sure there was conversations about it behind the scenes during that period of time. It worked. Yeah. Little weekend, you fly into New Jersey, you got Manhattan.
Well, you're not complaining.
No, I don't think anyone was. I think it worked for the players loved it. The media, we got to spend your little boat trip, $7 for 7 minutes, and you're in Manhattan and you're back and forth. And then the actual game itself was deeper into New Jersey. Yeah. It worked. It's not a break your heart to get over to the East Coast of America. All these things are on the table and they're all possible once the North Americans get their act together.